Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm your astrologer here to talk to you about the new moon in Scorpio. So, tonight on the 27th, we will start a new lunar cycle with the new moon in Scorpio. We will feel this energy for about 3 months. In fact, this connects with the energy that we felt back in July during the eclipses. So, if you think back to July during the eclipse season, some of those themes that we were experiencing then may come up during this time. So we're in Scorpio, and the moon is conjunct the ancient ruler of Scorpio, Mars, which is still in the sign of Libra. So Mars will soon be leaving Libra and joining Venus, Mercury, and the Sun in Scorpio. And, as it connects with Mars, Mars is squaring off against Saturn in the South Node. Saturn and Pluto have been traveling together in the South Node of Capricorn, in the sign of Capricorn. And so with Mars squaring Saturn, we may feel this in the form of restrictions or delays as we're trying to move forward. Mars represents our drive, relationships, sexual energy, physical energy, what we're driven to do. And so as it squares off against Saturn, we may have some feelings of restriction coming up, like we can't get any leeway. As Mars moves into Scorpio, I think that will change a bit. Also, the new moon is squaring Saturn and Pluto in the South Node as well. The new moon square Pluto. Pluto is the great dissolver. This is about dissolving the past, transforming our old ideas into new ideas. We're starting a new cycle. A new moon is always a time to set new intentions. It's a new chapter. It's time to, turn the page and begin anew. I love to record my intentions at the new moon and then review them at the full moon and see what progress has been made. So, Saturn and Pluto are traveling together in the South Node in the sign of Capricorn. So if the new moon is squaring Saturn, it's also squaring Pluto. The interesting thing about this new moon is that something that usually only happens once a year is happening and is coinciding with this new moon. And that is the sun is opposing Uranus. This happened last year in October in 2018. So maybe think back to some rapid changes that happened in October of last year. So we have the new moon in Scorpio and Venus and Mercury in Scorpio, and then the sun in Scorpio, because we're in Scorpio season, and it is directly opposing Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Very, very interesting aspect here, very interesting opposition. So not only is the sun opposing Uranus, but the moon is opposing Uranus as well in the sign of Taurus. Now, the moon represents our emotions, and the sun is our core ego, our self, the way we present ourselves, and they're in direct opposition to Uranus, which is rapid change and innovation in the sign of Taurus. Interestingly, Taurus and Scorpio, they're both fixed signs. Scorpio energy really likes to be fixed in the deep and the dark and the murky and the taboo. Taurus is fixed. It's a fixed earth sign. So, these are polar opposites, here. Everything that is in opposition, everything in astrology, there's always a polarity represented. So this Uranus opposition to the sun and the moon at the same time, coinciding with the new moon, is really, really exhilarating energy. Scorpio fixed in opposition to Uranus in a fixed sign of Taurus. If you think about it, Uranus represents, our awareness, our cosmic consciousness, the way we evolve. And Scorpio really represents us being fixed in that deeper past experience, that those belief systems or those patterns of thought, those behaviors, those addictions that probably weren't that good for us, but they became comfortable, they became familiar. And so it represents the past and staying stuck in old patterns. And Uranus and Taurus and expanding consciousness represents the future and how we grow and how we break free of those cycles. So anytime you have an opposition, there's a choice. We can stay right here where we're stuck, or we can move through the fear and progress. It's always a choice, and it is challenging us to expand our consciousness, our conscious awareness. Scorpio is a deep inward sign, and Uranus and Taurus is the outward expression. We can stay inward, locked up, or we can expand and open up outwardly and move forward. And it is challenging and it is difficult, especially when you have, these squares from the moon to Saturn and Pluto. This is really about dissolving our past ideals, beliefs, the way we think, those things that we're locked into, those patterns that we've become so accustomed to, but they really don't serve our higher purpose, And when we go through change, there's always that element of fear. And Uranus is rapid change. It is cosmic consciousness and awareness. And when we walk through that fear and we embrace that change, that higher awareness, that's how we grow. That's how we evolve. And even though it is a difficult aspect or a challenging aspect, the beautiful thing is that the new moon is also in a harmonious aspect to Jupiter and Sagittarius. I love that energy because every time I see a theme of a difficult aspect that is challenging, there's always that silver lining, that energy that says, if you do this, if you walk through this fear, if you move into the unknown, if you expand your awareness and embrace a higher form of thinking, then you are supported energetically, spiritually. And that is with that harmonious aspect to Jupiter and Sagittarius. Jupiter is the planet of luck, expansion, and it says, even though scary, even though we don't want to do this, even though we don't know what, our higher consciousness has in store for us, that it is always going to be worth it. There will be a payoff for moving through that, for moving into the unknown. And you're supported, you're divinely guided and supported energetically with these transits, with these aspects to a harmonious Jupiter and Sagittarius there. I love, love, love that silver lining there. And so, as we move out of Libra season full-fledged into Scorpio season, we have gone from that outward expression of our relationships with others in the sign of Libra to that deep inward reviewing and digging into, our relationship with ourselves, honestly. And this Uranus in Taurus opposition to the sun and the moon, it really, I think, challenges us to not stay stuck in that inward, to not stay so fixed in staying inside, but to open ourselves up to a broader perspective, to a new way of thinking, embracing a collective consciousness of growth. And so when we, do that work independently, sometimes it's really easy to get kind of bogged down and stuck in the mud of all of that intensity of Scorpio season, all of that deep Plutonian, South Node, Scorpio energy. And we really kind of glamorize it during this season, you know, with Halloween. And, you know, it's important to touch on those places, to visit those places, to be aware of those places and examine those places. Because by facing that shadow side, those deep, dark sides of ourselves, that's how we grow. We have to have that awareness. We can't stuff it, you know, but when we go down in there and visit it, it's really important not to stay stuck in it, you know. And this Uranus and Taurus is really encouraging us to not stay stuck there, to move from it and expand into a new belief system that serves not only our higher selves, but allows us to show up in a higher form of ourselves collectively as we all grow together, you know, supported by spirit, supported by the universe and God. And I just wish you all the happiest of new moons, and I will see you on the full